Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. So I've been away for a few weeks, been lots going on. We've been away to Bulgaria for a week, had an interesting holiday there, quite nice. A couple of issues with a hire car, but other than that it was alright. And yeah, just been catching up with summer activities, had a couple of good VC type meetups. Met up with John Bellamy and his wife and kids and dogs here in Lancaster. Had a nice pub meal with John and his family, great to catch up with him. And then I've just come back from Liverpool for a great trip with John Heaton, the great YouTuber John Heaton, and we had a wonderful time. Went to visit all the Beatles homes, you know, Fourth Lane Road and Mendips, and just incredible. Went to the village hall where McCartney met Lennon, and you know, all kinds of incredible things. I hopefully got some photographs lined up from that, but I haven't quite managed to organise those yet, so I will catch you up with those. Been buying loads of CDs actually, CDs and records. I'm going to try and do a CD update in the next week or two and try and show you just the sheer amount of CDs I've been buying. But for this update I thought I would catch you up with a few records, a few really nice things that I have grabbed from Heightside Records, the West Yorkshire based music purveyors who come to Lancaster once a week on a Saturday afternoon. A few really nice things here, a few real sort of, I won't say grails, but things that I've been after a long time. This first one, I'm really chuffed to find this. I've never seen a copy of this record, and it's one that I've seen people show over the years. When I first discovered the VC back in the mist of time, this is a record that I thought, ooh, I really fancy that. And I'd never seen a copy of it. This is Phil Manzanera and Diamond Head. And this comes from 1975, I think. Obviously Phil Manzanera from Roxy Music. It may have been his first solo album. Incredible cast of characters on here. You've got John Wetton on bass and vocals, Paul Thompson on drums from Roxy obviously. You've got Eno on here, vocals, treatments and rhythm guitar. Andy McKay from Roxy. Eddie Jobson on strings, clavinet and synth, he was in Roxy as well of course, and then various other people. It is art rock in the great British art rock tradition. It just has that kind of mid-1970s Roxy-ish kind of sound. It's fantastic stuff. It wasn't expensive, I think it was under a tenner, and just one of those records that I've been after for ages. As don't know too much about Phil Manzanera's solo career. I know he had a solo career. This comes from the period when Roxy Music had broken up after the album, which one would it have been? One of those sort of mid-1970s Roxy albums, because they had a break, didn't they? And they came back with Manifesto in about 1977, 78. This comes from that period when they'd had a kind of a career sabbatical. Anyway, it's on the beautiful Pink Grim Island, and really pleased to get hold of a copy of it, as I've said about 3 times now, but I do repeat myself quite a lot on this channel, as you'd have noticed. So that's that. Next one, not quite as exciting, but it was a sort of a collection plugger, filler. One of the ones I didn't have. This is Camel and Breathless. This comes again from 78. This is just one of the ones I didn't have. Got it on the CD. This is one of the ones that's got Richard Sinclair on bass, Richard Sinclair from Caravan, and it saw the band edging into more of a kind of funky, dancey, disco-y kind of vibe. You got the great tracks Starlight Ride, Summer Lightning, and one of my favourite Camel tracks actually is Down on the Farm, which has a real kind of Syd Barrett, kind of English quirky kind of sound. Really funny lyrics. So apart from the debut album now, I think I've got all the 1970s and early 80s Camel LPs, so yeah, that's wonderful. Next one, a bit of jazz fusion. This is a record I wasn't particularly looking for, but I was aware of its existence, and when I saw a copy going cheap I thought I would grab it from Robin at Heightside. This is Returns of Forever featuring Chick Corea and No Mystery. The only other one I had by then was Romantic Warrior, so it was nice to grab this. So on this record you've got Chick Corea on acoustic and electronic instruments. So he's on Yamaha organ, you know, and he's got his clavinet. Stanley Clarke, of course, on bass and Yamaha organ. Lenny White. Nice record, I would say not as good as Romantic Warrior, but certainly enjoyable enough, just on red polydor. So there was that one. Okay, so what's left? 4 records that I was really pleased to find actually. This one is an artist who is beloved of one particular British guy on the VC, Rob Ison, and he's shown so many of his records over the last, whatever, couple of years. I see his records about the place, but they're either too expensive or they're not in particularly good condition. This one is in pretty good condition and it was very affordable. It was under a tenner, and it's HQ by Roy Harper, the great Hypnosis sleeve design from 1975. This has actually got Bill Bruford on, I think he plays on all of the tracks apart from the first track, The Game, parts 1 to 5, where you've got somebody else on the drums, not sure who, can't see, somebody else. Chris Spedding again is on this record, and you've also got John Paul Jones from Zeppelin is on here. Produced by Peter Jenner of Pink Floyd fame. So I really don't know much about Roy Harper. Obviously I know he's on the Pink Floyd album Wish You Were Here. I've seen him being interviewed over the years. It's on Harvest, and he seems like quite a character, and clearly a very individual musician. Very lyrical songs, very complex. I guess you describe it as folk rock really, but very elaborate song design, long extended passages, and you can kind of lose yourself in this record. I did fall asleep to it a couple of times, but in a good way. It didn't bore me, but it definitely has that quality, that kind of slightly ethereal quality to it that you can lose yourself in. So no idea where this particularly falls in his discography. 75 I see here, so this would have been right about the time of Wish You Were Here. And for some reason I thought David Gilmour was on this, but he's not. Steve Broughton, Dave Bedford. Which mid-1970s art rock album does Dave Bedford not appear on? So yeah, that's got the inner with Roy's totally indecipherable lyrics, and then I'll show you the label quickly. Oh, Black Harvest, I think I showed you that already, didn't I? So, lovely jubbly. We'll see how far the Roy Harper collection goes. I don't see his records around very much, so it may take a long time, Right, this next one, so chuffed to find it. 15 quid. It was one of the last albums by this artist that I want. And it's one that I was hoping to find at some point because I'd never heard it, I must confess. And I know some people on the VC will be shocked to hear me say that, but I'd never really heard this album. This is The Dreaming by Kate Bush. I'd heard tracks from it. I think I'd heard the singles from it back in the day, but I'd never heard the record. So this is the album she made in whatever year it would have been, 82, and I think it lost quite a few of her fans. It had a definite more kind of experimental sound. I think maybe samples were creeping in at this point, or maybe not. Sounds like samples, even if it wasn't. It's incredibly original sounding album. A bit of a grower. It's not a very immediate album at all. Tracks like Pull Out the Pin, There Goes a Tenor, I mean, they're not straightforward pop songs. They're nothing like Wuthering Heights or any of those early albums, really. They have a kind of sound of their own. It's kind of art rock, really. It sort of reminds me of maybe, the Peter Gabriel solo albums like Melt. They have that kind of slightly 80s clattery sound, menacing in places in a strange way, but just, Kate's inimitable vocal stylings over the top. Fantastic. Great to get it finally into the collection. So I'm still missing a couple from her kind of golden period. Hounds of Love on vinyl, don't have that one yet. But this was a bit of a sort of a grail, really. I don't apologise for using that term, but yeah. Kate Bush, The Dreaming. A wonderful thing to find on a Saturday morning. This next one, shout out to Richard McCook here, one of his favourite bands, and this is a band whose records I never bought back in the day. I think because I was too young, really. I came onto the music scene in 1978-79 when these guys had peaked. Never got into their early singles for that reason, and I just never see their records around. I know they're extremely well loved by lots of people, so I was delighted to find a copy of It's Sweet Hits, Sweet 16. And this was an 80s compilation, came out in 84, I think, on Polydor, and it contains all the big juggernauts. You've got Little Willie, Wigwam Bam, Hellraiser, Ballroom Blitz. Side 2, it goes into more of the kind of later career when they started writing their own songs. After Chin and Chapman had kind of backed off and allowed them to write their own stuff. So you've got some things on side 2 which are self-written. So yeah, really delighted to get that. Is it going to make me a huge fan of the Sweet? I doubt it. I mean, they're a hugely influential band, huge influence on Queen, those kind of high-pitched vocals, you know. But they've got a kind of primitive, primal kind of quality, very catchy sing-along choruses. I don't know how much depth there is in their songwriting. I need to get more into them, I suppose, but maybe a band that you had to be into back in the day and you had to have grown up with them. I could be wrong. I could, you know, catch me a year down the line, you might find me a huge Sweet aficionado, but we'll see. Anyway, you know, regardless, it was nice to find that. And yeah, good cover of the girl sat in her bedroom with a record player with the posters on the wall. Kind of seems to sum up an era, that, doesn't it? Very good, excellent. Yeah, Sweet. Cool. Right, and the final one. This was not in the best shape, the sleeve anyway. The record actually plays fine, and it's a record that I've been after for a hell of a long time. Picked it up on CD from an animal rescue place for about 50p about 3 years ago, and listened to it a lot. I mean, I knew of its reputation, and I listened to it a couple of times and found it, you know, reasonably challenging as a record. I could definitely hear why it was important, you know, why it was significant. And then I really started to get into it on CD, started to play it a lot, and thought it'd be nice to find a record, a version of it. I assumed that if I ever had it on vinyl, it would end up being a reissue. But look at that, I actually found an original copy, an original pressing, that is, of Horses by Patti Smith. And this was under a tenner. There's a couple of issues, got some biro there. We've got a bit of a seam split at the top, but you know, it's really not too bad at all. And the record itself is extremely acceptable. I cleaned it up, I'm just looking at it now. I mean, it looks pretty much unplayed, really, you know. So yeah, so 1970, what would it have been? 75, produced by John Cale, and just one of those records, one of those absolute proto-punk albums that came out, you know, back in the mid-1970s, you know, Think This and the Ramones' first album, and harbingers of a new kind of musical movement, I suppose. One thing I was disappointed with, it didn't contain, on the CD track listing ends with their live version of The Who's My Generation, I think it is, with John Cale on bass. It's just an absolutely incredible version of it. It's not on here though, but wonderful playing, wonderful synergy between the musicians. You've got Lenny Kaye on lead guitar. Obviously he was the guy that came up with the Immortal Nuggets collection back in the 80s? And yeah, just a great band, great sound, wonderful lyrics, very evocative, and plug back into certain traditions, you know, plug back into the girl group tradition, maybe a bit of kind of classic 60s pop and kind of underground suburban garage rock sounds, and just an anti-epokal release, as they say. So delighted to grab that. And I do have another Patti Smith album, one of the later ones, which is not as good as this, but it's still pretty good, you know. No idea how large her discography is. Don't know a huge amount about her, really. One of those artists I should read up about. There are some more records. I have another couple of charity shop hauls to show, and like I said, I'd like to show you some of the CDs I've been buying, because there's a bit of a story attached to that, but I'll save that for another video. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that update, and I will look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care. Bye.